Hey, what's up, you wrestling fanatics? You're listening to the True Wrestling Podcast, episode 44. Thanks for tuning in today. Seth and I will be previewing the Pitt versus Oklahoma State match today. I'll also be live streaming Power High School matches Friday and maybe Thursday, as well as covering the Navy at Lehigh match on Saturday if it doesn't get snowed out. I want to thank my sponsor, Adidas Wrestling. They're awesome. You can follow me on Twitter at TrueWrestler1 or go to my website at true-wrestling.com. You can follow Seth on Twitter at Seth_Duckworth, D-U-C-K. And you can also go to the Pistols Firing blog to follow Seth. And without any further delay, let's jump into the preview. Hey, Seth, how you doing today?
Good. How are you?
Good. How's fatherhood treating you? Everybody knows you're a new dad.
Yeah, it's great. It's a blast. It's a lot of work, but I don't know. I'm loving it. He's awesome so far. So
good. As long as your wife's getting enough sleep and you're getting enough sleep, you can make reasonable judgments.
Yeah, there are days that it's tough, but it's definitely great. He's awesome, and we're really happy.
Congratulations. Well, let's get in today's business, which is previewing Pittsburgh versus Oklahoma State. That's coming up I think it's this Saturday, right, at Gallagher?
Correct, yeah. They got a back-to-back here this weekend. It's kind of the backyard brawl, I guess, for OSU, because they got West Virginia on Friday, and then Pitt comes in the next day on Saturday. So.
Gotcha. Regional travel. I'm sure there was.
Exactly. I don't know if they booked a flight together or something.
I doubt that. But just for fans, everybody's been kind of down a little bit on Oklahoma State. I still think that they're a really tough dual team, and I think their best wrestling's ahead of them. I have them around number 10 on my dual index. I have Pittsburgh around 15 to 18. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's kind of. I don't know. People don't give them a lot of credit, and don't get me wrong. I think what you're saying is, as far as duels, they're pretty deep, and so I mean, there's nobody that's really not going to put up a fight in the lineup, but they don't have the big, the heavy hitters, the guys like Dayton Fix, and Derek White was last year. They don't really have a lot of. Boo Llewellyn's probably the only one you look at as a national title type contender. And it's still, everybody's really nervous with him because of all his injuries and everything. So they don't have those big, hard-hitting guys that they've had in recent years. But top to bottom, I mean, they got guys that go out and wrestle hard. I think something I've seen with them is they kind of pick each other up. When you have a guy like, when they have tournaments and stuff where a couple of them don't wrestle as well. Other ones they'll fight for those extra points and stuff. So I think they're a decent dual team. Like they just don't get that credit because they don't have a lot of the superstar big names this year that they have some of the time. But.
Yeah, one of the things I like about this duel is that I think both coaches will get their teams ready to wrestle hard. I've seen both teams wrestle this year. And I'm looking forward to it. Some guys have had some surprise results since I have seen them, like Piccinini for Oklahoma State or Ramini from Pitt, guys who I thought would possibly be in the finals this year, and maybe they've tripped early. I don't know, but it'll be interesting to see how they recover from here.
Yeah, it's pretty spot on what you just said there for sure.
All right. Well, let's just jump right into it. At 125, I just talked about Nick Piccinini. He's coming in as, I guess, a top 5 guy. He had a loss to Pat Glory, who he kind of owned last year, which is a little, bit of a mystery. But he has some really dominating wins over Brandon Paetzel, Latona, Werner from Lock Haven. So he's having a good year, but maybe not quite the undefeated run a lot of people thought he was going to have.
Yeah, it's Glory. I think we didn't get a chance to preview that one, but I know Princeton's a team you cover and everything. But last year Nick had a little bit of an edge on him, but Glory, he looked great there, and big win for him. And I think that's been Nick's only loss this year. But the guys he's supposed to be, he dominates, and that's one thing I've seen with him this year. And in most scenarios, he's had matches where he can get bonus points. He can get bonus. He does go out and get that bonus. He's pretty clearly a big leader on the team. A lot of guys you can tell look to him, and he kind of represents the team pretty well and all that stuff. But I think here he probably picks up a major at least. He's kind of that's what he's done typically. But yeah, his trajectory on his season, he hasn't. He lost to Glory, and we'll see who, as he goes through some tougher guys later in the season. But as far as what he's going to do, national title type contender situation that he was in last year, if he can get back to that with some other wins. But I think here he should probably pick up at least a major. So.
He's got Louis Newell, who is 8-6, doesn't have a win over anybody in the top 50. And talking about bonus, I would say a push for both teams would be a major decision. And I think, if he gets a tech fall or a pin, that being pitch, that would be, above expectation. If Newell can keep it to a regular, I think that's a win for Pitt.
Yeah, for sure.
Jumping up to 33, we got Mickey Philippi versus Reese Whitcraft. We saw this match just over a week ago, I guess, at the Scuffle. Did you watch it?
Yeah, I did. Whitcraft looked really good there. He hung with Philippi, and he's good. He beat Dayton Fix last year, but that was Fix's one loss besides the NCAA finals. And I don't think a lot of people, even me, didn't give Whitcraft a ton of a chance there, and he made it competitive, made it look interesting. I do think Whitcraft is. We've kind of seen it play out with him this season. Like Oklahoma State fans that have watched him closely, he's a big bunch of talent. Like he is a very, very talented, very athletic kid. He really, when you look at the mix of what he has, you can see him beating a lot of guys. He hasn't been able to put that quite together though. It's like there's last week, for instance, they wrestled Northern Colorado, and that kid I think is ranked around 20, something like that. Pretty good match, but Whitcraft, I think it had 5 takedowns to his 2 and still ended up losing the match. And it was little things like he didn't rack up any riding time. He got taken down at the end of the period twice where he didn't get the escape back and things like that have kind of bitten him or whatever. And, I think fans as a whole are looking for him to kind of break through and win some of those bigger matches with those ranked guys. And this is one, if he can, it would be a big upset. I think Flippy's a really, really good wrestler. But I think he kept it competitive last time. I think he could keep it competitive here. So we'll kind of see. It'll be interesting. For Pitt, I think, pull off the win, they would the overall dual win, they'll need maybe some bonus here.
Yeah, and the down part of that is that Philippi is not known to rack up bonus. I thought Whitcraft wrestled him really well. I thought he was able to block some of those attacks that Philippi can kind of get to a little bit of an angle on his tie and get in there, and Whitcraft blocked it. And it was a 1-point match. I always say that losing close is different than winning, because there's ways to block and do stuff like that. But for Pitt, they're going to need more than a regular decision to even make this a competitive match, if you ask me. And I think Philippi has the edge, but being such a close match, anytime there's a 1-point match coming down to the end of the third period, boy, you just don't want to do that as a wrestler. You got to win going away a little bit and create some separation. So I'm taking Philippi. I think he's better from neutral, and maybe has a little bit of mat savvy. But based on the Scuffle, I don't know if he was nicked up or not, but it was our super close match.
Yeah, it could be competitive. We'll see.
We'll see. And for Pitt, I think the win would be for bonus points. But like I said, I think he's got maybe 25%, 30% bonus rate. So I don't see that happening.
Gotcha.
Going up to 41, Cole Matthews comes in for Pitt, ranked around number 20. And for OSU, you got DeFeller coming in, ranked, I don't know, between 5 and 10 somewhere. He's undefeated, right?
Yeah. No, he actually lost in the Scuffle finals to
Real Woods.
Kid from Stanford, Real Woods.
Real Woods, yep, and he's the real deal.
Yeah, he was. He took him down once, and I mean, it was the score wasn't maybe as indicative of what the overall match was, but like 4-1 or something. But he basically just rode him the rest of the match after the one takedown. I mean, I think he had like 5.5 minutes of riding time or something. But that was Feller's one loss. He beat Shoot from Lockhaven, the All-American. That was probably his big win there. As the season's gone, it's been Dusty Hone that's been the starter for the most part.
Yep.
It's kind of interesting, but everybody kind of thought the way they put it out was there would probably be a ranking match last week following Feller finished in second and Hone finished in third at the scuffle. I assume it happened. I haven't heard, they kind of keep that in the room or whatever. I haven't heard exactly what happened or how it went or anything. But John came out after the match and said that the reason Feller didn't wrestle was because he told him he was sick. So it wasn't necessarily, still not really knowing exactly how the ranking match went or whatever. Home got the start versus Northern Colorado this weekend, so could really still be either one of those guys. And I think, it could be a pretty good match either way. This is one I think Matthews would need to pull the upset to get another one of those. Pitt has to win the duel. But either one of those guys, Hone and Feller, aren't very far apart. They're both pretty good. So we'll kind of see. We'll see who trots out there.
See who goes out there. I know Gefeller doesn't have a very high bonus rate. And Matthews, if you look at his three close losses by 1 or 2 points. The only guy who really blew him out was the Ohio State guy, Luke Pletcher, who's kind of turned into a little bit of a bonus point machine. I think it will be competitive. I got to watch Hone earlier this year when he was at Lehigh. And Gefeller, these guys are both young. They're, Matthews is a redshirt freshman. Gefeller is a redshirt sophomore. What is Hone?
Hone is grade-wise, he's a junior, but he's actually maybe 24, 25 years old. He went on a 2-year mission after his sophomore year, I believe, and then came back. Because he's a junior now. So it was after his redshirt freshman year, I guess. So he was at OSU for 2 years, went on a 2-year mission, came back as a sophomore, a redshirt sophomore classification-wise. And now he's a second year back. So he's a redshirt junior, and like I say, he's probably 25 years old. He's been around for a little bit. So,
gotcha.
Yeah, it'd definitely be a contrast if it's Hone that goes out there, the guy that's kind of been around for a while and, had that time to develop or whatever versus a younger guy. But then, like I say, if you send out Gefeller, it's a matchup of two pretty young guys. So.
Yeah. Well, if it is Gefeller, I'm going to take him with a regular decision. I think that he is going to win a close match, 7-5 or something. And if it's Hone, I'm going to take Matthews. I just think that Matthews' neutral attacks are just a little better than Hone's at this point.
Yeah, I actually would. I don't know. Gefeller's had some close ones, so I think anyway, either one of the guys OSU sends out, it's going to be a tight match. Like on paper, I think if you just blind didn't look at it, anything else, you just said, okay, here's this guy's name and here's this guy's name, you might think, Feller might blow him out or whatever. People know who that kid is and stuff. But I'm with you. I think it's going to be really close. I'll just throw a weird one out there, but I'll flip it. If it's Hone, I think Hone wins. If it's Feller, I think Feller loses. So
okay.
I have not a ton to base that on. I don't know. Feller just the biggest thing I think to me is if it's Gefeller, he in his first couple matches at the scuffle, he wrestled really, really tight and was just not. And he's cutting a lot of weight. He's actually, and I think that was part of it. So my kind of, I guess, theory to back that up is if coming off the weigh-in, and having to weigh in the night before too, yep. I'm worried that he might kind of be feeling a little bit rough if he does go through all that. And then that could give Pitt a little bit of a shot there. So,
What do you think the odds are that Coach Smith makes him do it or splits the matches up between the two guys?
ooh, that'd be interesting. I hadn't really thought of that, but yeah, I mean, there's a possibility with that. They could do that, but
Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
I mean, it's getting to that time of year. You got to make sure they can do it and do well at conference championships and NCAAs.
Yeah.
On the other hand, I'm not sure Coach Smith is a smarter wrestling mind than I have. So even though some people don't think so, not me personally, but him. All right, so we got our picks down there. Let's move up to 149. We got Boo Llewellyn coming in, ranked. I don't know where he's at right now. He is undefeated, but I don't know where he is in the rankings. Top 5.
I think Flo has him at 3, the most recent one. His big wins been one of his bigger ones was last weekend with Alirez from Northern Colorado, the freshman kid that's coming up. And then he beat Braden Lee, Minnesota kid. That's he basically what I followed is since besides that loss in their duel early. Braden Lee's been beating basically everybody like in all the tournaments and stuff they've been going through. So that's turned out, I think it was kind of unclear at the time how big of a win that was because it was like, what's Braden Lee going to do? He's young and all this other stuff. But then he rattled off. I think he won Reno. I think he won, some other tournaments and stuff that were fairly decent tournaments. So that's turned out to be a pretty big win for him. But last I saw, he was ranked 3rd and he's undefeated. But he didn't pass skin checks at Southern Scuffle, so he didn't get to wrestle there, which he would have had Stanford kid, I can't think of his name off the top of my head, that's pretty good. I think he's who ended up winning the tournament. Somebody. but that's who but he missed that tournament though. But otherwise all the duels he's looked pretty good and he's undefeated,
Yeah, so I would say that he's going up against Luke Kemmerer, who's ranked on the wrong side of 100. You got to think that, and although he has wrestled some close matches with some ranked guys, I think Llewellyn is just too talented for him as long as he passes his skin check. And you got to think that even though Llewellyn, I think his bonus rate is around 50, you got to think a win is more than a major for Boo.
For sure.
So if it's not a tech or a pin, I gotta say that Kemmerer did his job because he's just really, I think he's just outmatched here. So I'm taking Llewellyn, and I'm going with a tech, even though he does not have a lot of tech falls. I know he's got more majors but I just think that's where I'm at right now.
Gotcha.
All right. Did you say you got Llewellyn? You going with a regular? Or major?
Oh yeah. I don't know what to pick as far as. I mean, he's definitely gonna win, but I'll go with major on it. He hasn't been. It's kind of interesting, but even John has said in the post match stuff and a lot of the interviews about Boo that with all his injury history and stuff, they're almost telling him to step back from like really even pushing for bonus and doing anything that could like risk him getting hurt. It's just win the matches, do what's there, but just because they're so nervous because he's been hurt so much. So I don't see him even like across the board all season being a guy that goes out and just tries to rack up and beat the brakes off somebody unless it's some scenario where, it's just desperately needed for some team thing because they're really kind of guiding him not to do that. So,
it's interesting you said that because now I remember Coach Smith actually telling me they have a custom training plan for him to keep him injury-free, right? Like, very customized.
I mean, it's smart. I think it's bit him. I mean, he's been hurt a lot, and you kind of have a couple other guys that they've had. Alan Gallagher a couple of years ago had a lot of problems where he'd get hurt, poorly timed right before NCAA's type stuff. So I just think they're probably taking every precaution they possibly can to avoid any of that. So,
gotcha. All right, going up to 157, I think it's going to be Wyatt Sheets.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely going to be Wyatt Sheets. So.
Versus Talib Ramani. I'm sorry. Sheets comes in ranked probably between 15 and 20. Ramani's probably between 20 and 30. They faced each other at the Scuffle. Sheets won 6-2, and then Did they face each other earlier in the season?
Yeah, no, last year. I think in the
La-
duel last year.
Duel last year, and Sheets won 9-3 there as well. Um, Romani's one of these guys who is just so inconsistent. He beat Josh Humphreys, pinned him actually, who Sheets knocked off last year, but lost to in the duel this year. Um, so it shows how much mental game there is coming every week. If you're not ready, you can get anybody can beat you, and also some of this stuff is a style matchup.
Yeah, and and it's kind of interesting with Sheets. The conversations the coaches and stuff have is they've all kind of thought he was on this edge of breaking out, kind of like jumping levels, and all the kind of coach speak they say. And I think Southern Scuffle, he came in unseeded, finished third. So his only loss was to Hidlay, which nobody's beaten that guy this year, in my opinion, at 157. So I think he I don't know, maybe he's making that jump that they're talking about, because that's something they consistently say with us, is that he's right there and he's on that edge, and then maybe he's going to leap out and take off. And at the Scuffle, he looked like that was maybe what was going on, because he was beating everybody. But like you said, I've seen a few of Romani's matches, and he beats good people. Like Humphreys beat the brakes off of Sheets in the duel against Lehigh, and probably and for him to knock him off, at least what I saw in the Lehigh duel, that gets tough. So if this guy's got the ability to beat Humphreys, he could probably beat anybody, I would guess. So
yeah, with just the consistency, I'm going with Sheets, even though I feel like if it's Romani's best match, he wins. But
yeah,
do you know if he's going to bring his best match on the road? I don't know. I don't know if he's banged up. I watched a couple of his matches at the Scuffle, and it just didn't look like the same guy. And he lost back-to-back matches, and one of the guys was, he wasn't even ranked from, I think it was Oregon State. So I'm going with Sheets, and unless Romani is coming out as a different guy, but you can't rely on that when they're inconsistent. So I'm going with Sheets. Regular decision.
I got Sheets too, but I think I do think he's on that. I mean, coaches who see him in the room every day and evaluate all this stuff think he's on that edge of breaking out, and I'm hoping that's what is happening. But I think he looked really good at the Scuffle. He looked good against Northern Colorado. I think he's kind of starting to feel some things out, and definitely heading in the right direction right now. So.
Going up to 165, we got Jake Wenzel versus Travis Whitlake. Wenzel's coming in around number 20. Whitlake is probably between number 10 and 15. I don't know, depending on the ranking service. Whitlake has, what does he have, one win over him? 7-2 at the Scuffle. And you got to think that people are a little bit down on Whitlake. I think he was a blue chip prospect. He lost to the guy from Stanford. Was it Griffiths maybe?
Yeah.
Is that who? Yeah, Shane Griffiths.
Tournament, and I don't know. Whitlake was the only one that I thought was really even competitive with him, and it was a tight match. I mean, I don't know that he was beating the Griffin, but it was a close match. I didn't think Whitlake looked bad there. I thought it was a pretty decent tournament for him overall.
I thought so too. So I'm taking Whitlake again here. I think he's just going to get better. I mean, he's a freshman. He's going against a junior, but I just think Whitlake's attacks, as long as he is active and that motor is on, I always bet on him. So I'm taking him in a regular decision as long as the score is more than 5 points total.
Yeah, I'm with you. I kind of, you alluded to it, but the nationally and stuff, it seems like people aren't maybe quite as high on Whitlake as in certain circles, and I don't know. I don't get that. I know maybe his redshirt year wasn't, I don't know, as special as maybe people thought coming in as world medalist and stuff, but he's looked good in my opinion this year. I mean, he's really got that one loss. Otherwise, he's beat everybody that's been out in front of him, and he's wrestled some decent guys. So, I definitely expect a win here from him and hopefully a lot more of it going forward. So.
Yeah, and the thing that I took away from the Scuffle was it didn't appear to me that the weight cut was getting to him, because he's cutting a lot of weight.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't. I've not noticed anything that thought. I mean, there was maybe one duel where he kind of looked a little sluggish, and there was a guy that I want to. I think maybe OU. I think it was Bedlam. I want to say that he didn't really quite have a lot of pop. Like and it made you think maybe his weight cut wasn't great. But other than that, I don't think his weight's been an issue. And that was everybody coming in this year was like, how's he going to handle that? Because he was 74 last year. Some people had him projected as a 84 in college, and and
Right.
he's been obviously been 65, and I haven't noticed the weight cut to be much of an issue for him.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's there, but he's looked good. That he's had other issues, I guess, at times, but weight cut definitely doesn't seem like it's there.
Yeah, he had the back-to-back when I saw him. He wrestled Drexel, then Lehigh. And the second day, his motor was slower. But he's young. It's traveling. Anyway, I'm going with him. And I'm going to take a regular decision. And I think it'll be a good match.
Yeah.
Going up to 74, Pitt will probably have Greg Harvey. And who will Oklahoma State have?
Yeah, it's I mean, that's the conversation everybody's having right now. Joe wrestled at the Scuffle, wrestled, I believe, 2 matches, and in the third one he got hurt and defaulted out of the rest of the tournament. He weighed in. He actually did weigh in last week versus Northern Colorado. Didn't wrestle. They wrestled Andrew Shomers again. So I really don't know who's going to go out there, if it'll be Joe or if it'll be Shomers. It'd be kind of interesting to see. That's a saga that's playing out that everybody's kind of like everybody comes to me and asks me the answer to when we're going to see more Joe, and I honestly don't know. I don't know anything, a whole lot of specifics about it. I just know he did get hurt. They said he hurt his shoulder at the Scuffle. He has had some struggles getting down to weight, but he did make the weight at Northern Colorado. He did make weight at the Scuffle. And, hopefully we'll see some more of them. But last weekend we saw Shomers, and it could be Shomers again. I really don't know. But be one of those 2 guys for sure. And, we'll see who. I think if you have Shomers, you project you got to give the match to Pitt. I think if you have Joe Smith, it's still like up in the air. Nobody knows because we've only seen him for a couple of matches before he got hurt, and then
Right.
didn't wrestle anymore. So I mean, on paper, you definitely lean towards lean towards Pitt in this one. So
Yeah, I'm going to take Harvey if it's Shomers. But Smith has a major on him last year in the duel. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Like Joe Smith, I love watching his style. I love his neutral game. I just wish we would see more of him. So.
yeah.
Anyway, that's my pick. I'm taking Harvey over Shomers and Smith over Harvey. Boom. All right, 84. Pitt's coming in with Nino Bonacorsi. Bonacorsi is 14-2 on the season, and is it Montalvo? Montalvo have the position locked down?
Yeah, that's okay. This is one that's going to be interesting as far as lineup goes. So far, okay, open up the season, very first media day. They tell Dakota Gear says he's going to be at 84 this year.
Yeah.
Obviously, we haven't seen him at 84 this year. He wrestled one tournament early and then went back to 97. Has been 97 all year with Montalvo starting here. But we've seen him take some losses. I know you covered Princeton. Brucky kind of took it to him, and he's a small 97.
Yeah.
It's a clear, like you see it when he wrestles those big guys like Brucky that are physical and strong. He struggles, and so I gotta think I haven't heard anything specific, I guess, out of the room about it, but you gotta think there's some conversation about whether or not 197 or 184 is the best weight for Dakota Gear. And one kind of interesting, I guess, development, I don't know if it's his, I don't know how this will play out, but really as a dual lineup, like you're talking about OSU having a pretty decent dual team, Montalvo's good. He's a solid wrestler. He goes hard. I mean, I like him a lot. I think I like his trajectory as a college kid. I think he's one of those guys that wrestles so hard that you could see if he, sharpens some edges and some of his technique and stuff, he'll be a really, really good wrestler for OSU. But at the end of the day, you got to think that the main reason Gear's up and Montalvo was inserted there is that's the better dual lineup for OSU.
Yeah.
Better tournament lineup might be Dakota Gear at 184 with Dakota Gear going and finish second or finishing pretty high at the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that all kind of plays out. But one thing I think to keep in mind is Andrew Morrison actually was out the first semester, and he's now back at school. I don't know if he's going to wrestle, but as far as this weekend or anything like that, I don't know how quickly his eligibility starts back up or how all that works really. But they started school this week, and I know he's with the team and everything, and so he may actually be starting wrestling back this week, and that gives OSU a pretty decent option at 197 if Gear does go back down. So I do think that's like long term, maybe not this weekend because he just got back, but that may be something they eventually look at because they don't really have a true 197 that would be a better option than what they're doing right now. So ramble on with all that, but yeah. I still think this weekend we're probably still going to see Montalvo at 84 and then Gear up. But I say all that other stuff to say that's a possibility. Something that crazy could happen now.
Well, that's why I was bringing it up because I mean, Gear not only did he lose to Brucky, he lost to Ethan Laird. And Laird was a round of 16 guy last year, but not super jacked at 97. And when Gear lost to him at the scuffle, I was like, well, wait a second, like. He's a small 97-pounder. I figure he's up there because of the dual lineup. I'm guessing that. When he wrestled 84 last year, he beat Bonacorsi, and I think he shut him out. I didn't pull that up, but maybe I'll do it while I'm talking. But it seems a little early to bring him down in weight. But the question I have for you is, do you have access to the weigh-in sheets to see if he's on his descent plan?
No, they don't give them to us.
They don't. Sometimes I walk by the scorekeeper's table and they carelessly leave them there after matches, and I snap a photo.
I've never tried to snag anything like that. They may. I mean, I don't. I've never made that effort. I guess
gotcha.
They may be floating around.
Well, in 84, if it's Montalvo, I'm going to take Bonacorsi, and it might be a spot. He bonuses. He might even get a major on him. If Gear is dropping down. I don't, again, like you were saying, I would think it would probably be a little too early. I'm sure his weight descent plan wouldn't allow him if he's just starting since the scuffle. But it would be interesting if someone could snap a photo out there who's listening.
I do know that at the scuffle, I was told by somebody pretty good that he only weighed in at like 194. So, I mean, that's.
Yeah. There it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very strong possibility. They had one duel in between that, was Northern Colorado. I don't know where he weighed in there. So, but yeah, it's all out there. It's a possibility, but yeah. I just don't know anything specific on what's gonna go down there this year. So.
I will say that Oklahoma State is one of the few college teams that, in recent memory, that has moved guys around as much as they do. And also brought them down before the end of the season. Very common in high school. You just don't see it that much at this level.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, it's different. It's definitely unique. And last year, it kind of, created a lot of controversy and a lot of conversation about all the stuff with Joe Smith and Chandler Rogers at 165, and whether or not it was the best situation. Last year, I looked at it a little bit differently. I think because I think. They didn't really know what was going to happen with Preston Weigel, who was out all year at 197, and then he came back to life, and nobody thought he was going to actually be able to heal up in time for the NCAA tournament. He did, and when he did, as good as he was and had been, I mean, he more or less pinned his way through, except for Colin Moore last year at the NCAA tournament, got third. He lost some more in the semis, but they had to kind of make room, I think, and that's why they pulled everybody back down, and that created a lot of that, in my opinion. But this year, I think it's more of a they look at this as the best dual lineup for OSU right now, and that they it's still Oklahoma State. You don't want like conversations about I don't know what are they doing up there when they're losing duels and stuff like that. So I think it's more of a it's unique that they do that. Don't get me wrong, but I think it's more of a push to win dual meets than it is anything like specifically to really just let Gear weigh in at 197 or whatever. It's just they're trying to win duels, and that's what their angle is. So.
No, I get that totally. And there's a lot of teams I think if they thought about it a little more, they could make some moves to win dual meets. Yeah. I was Matt's side of the match last week where clearly if they swapped. If they bumped their 97 or the 84 pounder up to 97, I think they would have won the match. I'm not going to call it out because I don't want the coach to tell me I can't cover the team anymore. But it was just an interesting thing because they had a win over it. But all right, let's get back to 97. So it looks like Dakota Gear will most likely be there.
Yeah, that's probably what's going to be.
And he'll be coming in. I don't know what his ranking is after the scuffle, but let's just say he's not as highly ranked as he was going into the scuffle. He'll have Kellen Stout, who has been at Pitt here for 3 years, transferred from Penn State. He lost to Gear last year in the duel 7-2. I would imagine this is a great – and Stout hasn't beat anybody in the top 50. He just has not been able to make the change at the D1 level. I would imagine it's a great match for Gear to get back on track. And to me, it's whether or not he can bonus Stout. Stout's kind of long, lanky, and can tie up wrists, but not nearly as well as he should. He's as tall as a heavyweight, and he might be able to tie Gear up a little bit, but I just don't think he's strong enough to tie him up, even though Gear's not a full 97-pounder.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think last time they wrestled it was Gear 7-2 in the duel.
Yep.
So that was last year, but like we talked about though, Gear may be walking around at 190 right now, and so even though you say he's got to be a little bit stronger and stuff that to control those ties, maybe he is because maybe Gear's already sucked back down to 84. Or maybe I'm saying all this and Gear's going to stay up at 197 all year. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I don't know. But all signs point to that. So, but we'll see. I think I do think Gear wins this match. So.
Yeah, I think a push is a regular decision. I think if Gear gets a major, it's a win for him and his mindset. And if Stout keeps it within 3 points, that's a mental win for him. I can't imagine that happening. I just haven't seen Stout wrestle that well. Going up to the big guys, 285, Austin Harris, versus Demetrius Thomas. Now Thomas, if you would have asked me a month ago, I thought he would have been coming into this match in the top 5. He looked dynamite to start the season. Even though he did lose at the early in the season at the Michigan State Open, I think, to the guy from Michigan, but the way he beat Jordan Wood, and Wood may have been sick at the time. He ended up losing to Chase Singletary by a few points. I thought that he would be a much better wrestler than his number 10 to 15 ranking is right now. Austin Harris, what do you think of his 2 matches, 2 losses at the scuffle?
2 out of the scuffle. He's a great kid. He's a hard wrestler. It's just he's just tasked with something that's not easy. I mean, he's really probably a 197. He came into college as a 174, and he's in reality he's 197, and he's getting thrown into heavyweight, and he's not there physically. He's not, but he does everything you hear about him out of the room, and everything I've seen from kind of talking to him personally and stuff. Great kid, really level-headed, hard worker, all those other things. Even if you look at Lehigh, he got a takedown against Jordan Wood, and it was largely because Wood kind of gassed and he was still fighting at the end or whatever. But he does a lot of things right to keep him competitive and help the team out in duels and stuff. Like against Princeton, the Connor, I think, is the heavyweight there.
Yep.
Basically, they, after Piccinini and Gear went down, that was still like a toss-up match to determine the duel. One of the last remaining toss-ups, and he picked up a win. So he does like all this stuff that as a fan that really views it from the reality of where these kids come in as recruits and what they're developing from and everything. You gotta really love what he did. It does, excuse me, but and did there specifically in that Princeton duel. But he's not beating Thomas.
Yeah,
and he's definitely going to have a pretty heavy edge on him. But I do think if Pitt comes in and pulls a bunch of upsets, and it comes down to this thing where he's got to fight to avoid bonus to win the duel or something like that, you'll see him go out there and do it, because he's wrestles hard. He really does all the things you want to see in a kid. He's just. He's not a natural heavyweight. He's not some high, big name recruit or anything like that. But he fights. He wrestles really hard. So.
Well, I'm going to take Thomas with a major, but I got Oklahoma State winning 20-14.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't actually tally up the overall score, but yeah, I think it'd be. OSU's they're just too heavy of favorites in certain matches that it's hard to see Pitt kind of pulling any kind of upset, but. I don't know. I like Gavin. I think he's a really good coach. I think last year. I think they were undefeated going into the duel with OSU. He's done he's built a good team up there, and I don't know. I like what he has going. So.
I love that he has those guys wrestling hard most of the time, and every time I hear coaching and wrestling doesn't matter unless you're working out with them. That transformation at Pitt was not only were they a train wreck off the mat. They were not wrestling hard, and I say that as a coach who had coached somebody on that old team, and he just ended up leaving because it was such a mess there. And Coach Gavin has turned it around, and I gave the athletic director a really hard time publicly about how she handled the coaching process. But Keith Gavin has stepped up, and I just don't think they're ready. I don't think they have nearly deep enough shells right now to be competitive with a team like Oklahoma State, even though, like Willie Sellers said, they're not having a good year. I'm throwing Willie under the bus, but I think that they're just the shelves are too stocked up for Pitt to be. If it's closer than 6 points, I would be really surprised.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. It just kind of you have these duels where they're a little outgunned or whatever with what they have in the room, and even if it's even if you get down kind of deep on your depth chart in a year like this for OSU, but Gavin's doing a great job. Like they wrestle hard. They just don't have probably the horses to hang here. But I don't know. It's a better match than some we've seen, and some that are that come to Gallagher-Iba. So. I don't know. We'll see a couple decent matches here.
I think there should be a bunch, at least 3 or 4 that are really competitive, and where there should be some action. So I'm looking forward to it.
For sure.
All right. Well, we'll see. We'll catch up afterwards and see who is closer on all our predictions.
Sounds good.
Thanks for the time, Seth.
No problem. See ya.
Yeah.